Hello and welcome to Imperfect with Rebekah and Sandra. That's me. Today, since we talked about marriage yesterday, or not yesterday, I guess it feels like yesterday, last week, we just wanted to talk a little bit about kids, and you might have figured that out by our reels, which actually happened naturally. It wasn't really planned, but here we are.
Yes. Yeah, so if you guys are following us on Instagram, I created a reel on Monday, just kind of going because a lot of our stories before I refer to my kids as numbers like 1 through 4, because a lot of the time if you don't know my kids, they have very unique names and it's hard to remember them and who is who because there's a lot of them. So I end up referring to them as number one and number two. So it's funny that other people now do that. They're like, "Oh, you mean number four?" Well, even Xander did like a couple weeks ago in one of our episodes. Oh yeah, like was it number two? And I was like, so yeah, it was kind of funny that I put that together, and I was like, oh, it goes great with our topic that we hadn't really decided on yet. So we were going to kind of go over uh, describing our kids' names and the reasoning behind that. So,
Um, maybe I should go for, I don't know, since I have one. So currently, I'll just go back to this year was my husband and my 3rd year anniversary. And when we decided to have a kid, it was a little bit before the wedding, actually. I think it was like January the same year. Um, but then I was like, wait, I have a dress that I need to fit into. Oh, actually, it was September. So it was September, and he one day was like, babe, today I saw these little kids with their dad at the bus stop, and they were like giving them goodbye hugs, and I'm never gonna have that. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. Yeah, I actually didn't say that was really sweet, or I don't remember saying that's really sweet, but I was like, we can have kids. I was like, that is an option. And I only say that because when we first met, we didn't really think we were going to have kids because we're older. I'm 38. I had her at 36. I had the person I had dated previously seriously said he didn't want kids, and I continued that relationship knowing that. So I had already at 20, I think I was 23, 24, 20, 23, 24 then. And so I didn't really change my mind after that, partially because I was getting older and I didn't have a significant other. And then we changed our mind. I found the right person. I was like, I guess the age doesn't matter. So that was where we got to having kids. And then she was born December 4th, and her name is Sabine Isabel. Sabine is I don't we did talk about names beforehand, but we only talked about boys' names really. And we are big Star Wars fans. So I think it was even before the pandemic, actually. We binged watched pretty much every Star Wars anything. The animations, the animation movies, all the movies, all of them. I'm telling you, all of them. We've seen them all. And there's one called Star Wars Rebels, which is one of the animations, and one of the main characters is a Mandalorian, and her name is Sabine Wren. And after watching it for a while, both of us were like, that's kind of a pretty name, and it's unique and different. And we're like, yeah, because I having a unique and different name appreciate it now that I'm an adult, whereas I didn't really as a kid.
yeah.
But it's not too unique that like people are gonna be like, what?
Yeah.
Because I actually was surprised. We run into people who are like, oh yeah, I had a best friend that had that name at the
Really?
hospital actually. And then I don't know, a couple of other people. Well, there's a Spanish version, which is Sabina. So it's not really too far off. And Italian. Her middle name, it was a little bit harder, but I wanted something that was more Spanish leaning. And the spelling of it is actually Spanish. It's just one S, one B, and no E. Or sorry, one S, one L, and no E at the end.
Love it.
So Isabel.
Yeah.
And then I gave her our last name.
Yeah.
I almost gave her my maiden name, but I was like, that's a really long name. I was like, I can't give her 4 names.
Because you don't have a middle name, right?
No, well, technically I do now because I made my middle name, yes, I made my maiden name my middle name, but no, I did not have a middle name growing up.
Okay. That's what
So every once in a while my friends were like, let's give you a middle name. And I'm like, no.
I do.
And that was in middle school.
I do remember that.
Because you all had terrible ideas. One of them was like Bertha or something. I mean,
Oh
it
my
wasn't
gosh.
Bertha. It wasn't Bertha, but it was along that line of like, I mean, Sandra sounds like an old name as well, but like it's
I don't think so.
something
I
that
love your.
something that we would have considered old in our
Yes.
what are you 12, 11, 13 years old?
Well, and now it's funny that a lot of those names, like our great grandmother's names, are all coming back. I think
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, so I have 4 boys. They are 14, almost 13, and then I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. And so the older two um, have definitely more Irish flair to their names. And so it kind of, we went off of more of the Irish side for their names, but it's actually, they're all my family names. So my oldest is Quinn Patrick, but Quinn is actually a surname on my dad's side of the family. We had a friend growing up, her name was Mary Jo, and it was Mary Josephine. I loved the fact that she had a double name. She hated it. She always said, don't ever give your kid a double name. And I loved it so much. And so I was like, I want to have, my first kid's going to have a double name. He hates the fact that I gave him a double name. So he goes by QP. So my dad's Patrick William. My grandfather was William Lloyd. Before that was, oh my gosh, it's going back too far. So they would just take the first name, turn it into the middle name, like stair step. So I kind of went out of that, but still kept family names. And so he's actually named after my dad as well. So my dad's Patrick William, so he's Quinn Patrick William. And then my second son, so number 2, is Killian, which means little Kelly. And then he has a middle name that was my brother's middle name. So he's Killian Walter. And then I have Vico, which is, it sounds like a totally like made up name, but it was kind of in a way, because I was sitting there thinking, okay, I've got these other 2 who have pretty unique names, and I can't just go from that to, a more common name. So I was trying to find variations of Becca. And then I was like, okay, how do I make that masculine? And then I came up with Vico, looked it up, and come to find out it's actually Italian. And Nathan's part Italian. So I was like, it works. It means the conqueror. So even though he doesn't have like a specific family name, he is technically named after me. So he's Vico Alexander. And then Dexter is actually a name I wanted really early on, but because of the show, I never did it. So I was like, okay, it's quite a while like later on. So so we went with Dexter, and he's actually named after his Nathan's dad, Scott. So Dexter Scott. And then only one is named after like my mom's side of the family, because Walter is actually from my mom's side of the family as well, and that's why my brother was named Walter. So yeah, they all have a lot of family ties of some sort.
Right.
Yeah, so if you think of like, most people are like, what about Vico though? I'm like, well, it's like a long story, but he's actually named after me. They all hate me because of their names. I'm hoping
they'll get over it.
I'm hoping someday they'll get over it, but
I used to hate my name and tell my mom I would change the way I spelled it. I told her I was going to change it to an S. And I was like, I don't know, 8 or 9 when I said that. So it was pretty young still. I was like, yeah, as soon as I'm 18, I'll get over it.
I do remember going through a phase in middle school. My mom told us what they were going to name us. I was supposed to be a Jana Elise.
Okay.
I'm not a Jana, but I loved the name Elise.
We actually were thinking of as Elise as her middle name,
Really?
but I decided it sounded too white. I know it's terrible, but I was just like, I don't speak Spanish and I already don't like that. Like her name is like, I mean, depending on where you find it, it's Italian in some versions. It's German the way we say it. Technically, I don't. That was air quotes for you not watching us. So I was like, I can't do Elise. I just can't like, and it took me a while because we really liked the way it sounded. It sounded like it flowed really well, but we really got really used to Isabel as well.
I love that.
It's funny, I did want to try and incorporate family names, but we didn't really have any. And it's easier with boys, it seems like. So if we had a boy, I love the name Ezra. I have no idea why. I have always loved the name Ezra. So we were going to name the boy Ezra James, and James is actually his adoptive dad, who's been the only dad he truly knows. And he's like, if it's okay, I'd like to name it after. I was like, oh yeah, perfect. Middle name. So at least the sentiment was there. We are going back to our deciding to have children. As much as we love our daughter, she is like 98% the only child. Like we're pretty set on that being her being the only child. So that's there, which is funny because I don't know if you ever, actually I do know, like if you ever thought about being a mom beforehand. And I did when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I was like, yeah. But when I thought about being a mom, one, I never thought about the baby years. They were always like, I don't know, toddler or older. and I dreamed so much. This is when I was somehow going to be a super famous fashion designer and have a place in New York and San Francisco and Portland,
Yes.
So we were going to travel everywhere. Like I said, real big dreams.
Real big dreams. No, I definitely, I went through a phase where I definitely didn't want to have kids. But it was probably when I turned 22. I knew, because I was a young mom, so I had my oldest when I was 23. And it was so funny because the other night Dexter could not sleep and he was up all night, and I thought, oh my gosh, I was thinking of you, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it. I mean, I guess it's the same thing, like no matter what, but you like think back, like how do we manage to function with absolutely zero sleep? We just do it. But
well, I think part of it is, and I hate to say this, but I was telling one of my good friends, it's a guy though, I was like, they have like a 9-month-old and he's 39 and she's a little bit younger. She's like 34. This is their second child. And Sabine was, I don't know, she was teething or something. So she was up a lot, like you were saying. And I was like, I totally get why our biology wants us to have kids when we're essentially kids, because you have the energy. When you're in your 20s, whether you're going to college or not, for me it was going to college, you stay up late and you're either partying or you're doing your work after you're partying, but you're still up till like 3 or 4 in the morning, and you don't take any thoughts about it. You're like, I'm good, it's fine, I'll grab a coffee or I don't know what,
yes,
and do my thing. Whereas now I'm like, no, can I just, no, I'll go get her. Will you get her? I'll just bring her to bed. Just so I can get that extra, like, I don't know, 10 minutes that I'm not even sleeping.
Yeah, that was totally me this morning. I was like, oh my gosh, because just from not sleeping Monday or Sunday night, from not sleeping Sunday night. It has affected me all week. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because this is the same kid who had colic for the first, I swear it was like 9 months. And I was functioning on zero sleep and probably postpartum depression, and just not, I was not doing well at all that first entire year. It was really, really rough. Um, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it is still affecting me today. I keep thinking Friday. Today's
Right.
only Thursday.
Thursday. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I hope that they embrace their names. I also never thought about them as adults with their names. I always thought of them as kids with their names. And so the other day, it kind of, when we were talking about this, I was like, I was working on some of my business cards, and I thought, someday they're going to have their name on a business card. And what are they going to choose to put on there? Is it going to be QP, or is it going to be Quinn Patrick, or Pat, or Patrick, or Quinn, or what is he going to end up deciding to go by at that point? What's going to
Right.
look good on a resume? Like, are people going to look at the resume? And I mean, none of those things even crossed my mind when I was coming up with names. Like, yeah. So, random thought of Rebekah. There you go.
I don't think we did either. Or, you know, actually, Brian probably did.
Yeah.
So speaking about names, I am convinced that in your partnership, the one that is not carrying the baby, typically the man, but it could be a woman, they're the ones who have to go through and find all the ways to make fun of this name. I swear, because it's every time I've known anyone pregnant and their significant other will be like, well, what about this? What about this nickname? And how are they gonna they're gonna joke around?
Yes.
You're laughing because it's true. And he didn't say anything about it. Whereas there were other names. He's like, no, and then he would throw out, I don't remember any of the other names, obviously, otherwise I would try and give you examples. But yeah, it was either just no, or he'd throw out all the this is how a kid can make fun of it. And I was like,
Yes.
okay, next.
And that makes sense though, because I remember a girl from like summer camp when I was really young. Honestly, I can't remember what her name is now, but it was like Christina or something, very common name, and somehow they managed to find ways to bully her with her name and make fun of it anyway. So I don't think it really even matters what you
No, it really doesn't.
Kids are jerks, and they're gonna find a way to make fun of you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, we have lots of nicknames besides numbers. I
Oh,
don't
right.
actually call them 1 and 2. Like, I only refer to them in 1 or 2. But it was funny because after Quinn Patrick, I was like, the only reason we started calling him QP, for one, he looked like a little Cupid doll. Like, his hair was like a little Cupid doll.
Yeah.
And then Killian couldn't say his name. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
it was like Koopy, and then ended up being Bubba. So from there, I was like, I want names that can't be like shortened, because probably because my whole identity issue of like growing up as Becca, and then as an adult, I've always gone by Rebekah. And so they're like, oh, Dex. I'm like, no, it's Dexter. But then they have like cool names that they get from sports or whatever. Killian's Killer. Like, it has stuck since Liz's first year of tackle football. So they've got a million different names that we call them. I won't put it out there because they'll probably hate me for life if I do.
Probably, yeah. I do have to tell ours. She'll probably hate it too, though, which is, I don't often show her online, just for anyone who looks at the Instagram or Facebook or something, partially because she's going to have her whole life to be on the internet, because that's what kids' lives are now, that I want it to be her choice. So there are some times where I'll put a little bit of something. Sometimes I cover her face. Sometimes most of the time it's an angle where you can't see her face.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be her choice. But I do want to. So when we found out it was a girl, we found out pretty early because we wanted to do all the testings and stuff since I am older. And we found out, I just started calling her Beanie Baby. And I was initially thinking about, because I knew I was kind of small, even though I couldn't compare it to anyone because it's the start of the pandemic. I was really thinking about the little Beanie Babies that used to be a super popular thing when we were kids.
Now we're
It
aging.
just sounded cute. I know. And it sounded cute. So we still call her that. I'm sure we'll be calling her that for a while. But my husband and I are always like, I wonder what her friends are gonna call her, which is true. Like, what are they gonna call her? You can't really shorten it, not really. He said he was gonna call her his little bean. And I was like, I don't know that you can call her a bean. And he goes, why not? It's cute. And I was like,
Oh,
she's Mexican. He's like, I'm not calling her a beaner. I was like, it's pretty close. See, you got it. You got it.
when you first said, I was like, oh no, oh no.
But then I was like, okay, I guess it's cute. But I don't called her that. I mentioned.
Oh, I love it. That's so funny.
So that was you can't call her that. And I was like, fine, it is kind of cute. I guess if you do it, you do it.
In the correct company.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, geez. I love it. Yeah, the squish bug is the one. He doesn't care that everybody knows that squish bug is Dexter. Um, and I don't even know, he was just like such a squishy little bug. Like he just, oh my gosh. And all my kids were ginormous. Like,
Yes. I don't feel like Killian was. Everyone that's listening or watching, I'm a little partial to Killian because I actually saw him as a baby and I'm like, oh, he's my baby. Because I obviously had a little bit of baby fever then, but I wasn't dating anyone. But QP was giant when you had him too. And I'm like, how do you carry these two kids? This one alone.
at the same time.
Yeah.
I was only 13 months apart. And QP wasn't walking yet when I had him.
Yeah. Was he wasn't even when I remember when you had to go to I don't know if you had to go to the hospital, but you went to the hospital when I was visiting and you were like, do you mind watching Cupid? I was like, no. I had to like pick him up to change him. And I was like, he is solid. This baby is solid.
Yeah, because I was super sick. I don't remember what I was sick with. I forgot about that. Yeah.
It was you? I thought it was Killian that was sick.
We still went out that night.
Yeah. I thought it was the night before. No. Oh no, it was the same night.
It was the same night. Yeah, that's a story for another time.
I don't really remember it. I just remember QP being solid.
Well, and they were all like Michelin men, like the rolls on their arms and but it's funny because in comparison, you think that Killian wasn't that big, but when I look back at pictures, I'm like, oh no, the kid had some rolls. Like they all had some rolls. And he just had the giant, big brown eyes. Like,
yeah,
you would see him, and he was just he had this tiny little head and these big old brown, like, what was that movie? Bedtime Stories. And there's this, I think it's a hamster, and he like opens his eyes, and it's these giant, big brown eyes. Bugsy, I think his name was Bugsy. Anyway, he was so cute. That was one of my mother-in-law's favorite stories. Like when I first brought the kids over to meet him, and he's in the car seat still, and she was like, I just remembered those big brown eyes. And I was like, I know. He's like, and he always yeah. And now he's a teenager, and I'm sure he would love the fact that I'm talking about this right now. He's gonna hate me. And I like that what you said though about social media. So once my kids got to a certain age, I remember thinking about that too. And so now I ask them, like I show them the picture or a video or whatever it is, and I say, is this okay? And I always get their permission first because they don't have phones. I'm a mean mom. You know, they're teenagers. They don't have phones. They don't have social media. They don't have any of that because, like you said, they're going to have that for the rest of their lives. It's something that's going to follow them for the rest of their lives. We could have a whole episode on that, but
yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, I always ask them first, and especially now
That's
that they're
awesome.
getting older, and there's horrible kids out there who will find any reason, um, you know.
Well, and you're teaching them consent,
There you go.
which is good. I
Yeah,
didn't even think about it until right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think subconsciously that's part of it too. Like she doesn't have any way to consent to us
yeah.
using her photos. Like,
I love
and
that.
I want her to understand that she has all of the control of herself, her mind, her body, everything.
And that she has
Because
a voice.
because that's not really anything that we were taught, and we were not needing to get on this topic. But
Yeah.
that's, I think, subconscious. I know for me that was something that I had to learn later, like in my 20s. So I think it's something I subconsciously think about, and that's part of why I do a lot of things the way I do them.
But I think that's also a definite pro to having kids later is that what you learn and your patience too, and all of those things. Like, I do think of when I had kids so much younger, if I could go back, there's so much that I would do differently. But a lot of it would come down to just that patience and knowledge of how I would go about things and teaching them in a different way. But they haven't turned out too bad.
They're alive. Woo!
They're alive. I kept them alive. I didn't eat them. Although
They're
I
so
can
cute.
I can hear the teenage angst just across the wall, so you know.
It is what it
It
is.
is, I know. So, if there are any young kids listening to us for whatever reason, I don't know why you'd want to, and you decide to
Yeah.
use this as like any reason to make fun of my kids, just know I will find your parents because I'm that mom.
She's also not joking,
I'm
just in
not.
case you were wondering.
I'm not joking at all. I may be really nice until you cross me or my kids. Anyway, I just had to put that out there in case we have some youngins listening. I don't know why you'd want to, because
Two old moms.
moms.
Maybe we should change the
You
name.
never know. You never know. Oh my gosh, we should talk two imperfect old moms. That's our new name. Apparently, I can't remember which one. It was one of the older two that already told me that kids have told them that your mom seems kind of scary, but she's pretty.
Yeah, that's probably the older ones.
Yeah,
She's pretty. That sounds like a girl comment.
it was.
It's probably the oldest one.
I honestly can't remember, and it was actually a couple of years ago too. So
go check on which girls he's talking to.
They used to tell me a lot more. They don't tell me anymore.
Yeah, remember you have teenagers.
Oh my gosh. I know. I was like, okay, what was I doing in 7th and 8th grade?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, kind of like the day when they came home late and I was like making them like breathe in my face, and then their friend came around the corner. I was like, "Do you want me to smell your breath too?" And he was like ran off, and I was like, "I'm not mom. I'm not dumb." Only you knew. Live and learn.
Hopefully. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
that's right. You have hugs when they come in.
Welcome to Imperfect, where we go off on complete tangents, completely not relative to our topic.
I mean, we're talking about kids, so sort of.
There you go.
Sort of. A little bit. Not really.
Parenting.
But we thank you for joining us. Very much so. I think that's kind of all we wanted to talk about today.
I love that. Like when Xander and I were first talking about this, it was, if nothing else, this is an excuse for us to like carve out time to catch up, and it has been so much fun. So if you guys have been listening, thank you so much, because it means a lot to us.
It does.
Something that we've been wanting to do for a really long time, and it's been really fun just creating content behind the scenes that you guys don't really know what we're doing. It seems like we're just kind of meeting up once a week, but actually we've been working throughout the whole week on what we're going to be doing and brainstorming. And so it's kind of turned into a lot more than we anticipated.
Agreed. Agreed. I said that to my husband yesterday.
I was like, oh my gosh, this kind of turned into a whole new beast that we weren't really planning on, but it's been fun. And so we appreciate you guys listening. If you're still on, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, on imperfect WRNZ or imperfect with Rebekah and Zandra. And then we're on Spotify, Podbean. Did we fix Apple?
I think I forgot that. That was a lot of the behind the
Yes.
scenes stuff that has not yet been resolved.
There's
probably.
a lot that we are still learning, and so it's been a learning curve. So we appreciate your guys' patience. But
Oh yeah, we definitely appreciate it.
and YouTube.
Yes, YouTube. I mean, I know we have a page because it shows it to me as to whether you're seeing it. I'm going to say probably not yet, but if that's what you use, please stick with us. I will get it there, I promise. And actually, I think I should be able to get it this weekend.
Okay. We'll work on that and get that up and going, and because this will be our 7th episode. Is that right? I keep losing track.
I think so, actually, now that you say that.
Yeah. So it's super exciting, but thanks for hanging out with us. And we will see you guys next Saturday.
And have a perfectly imperfect day.
Yes, have a perfectly imperfect day. Bye.